And, you know, do we have to retrain or re-access, you know, for example, it may be that if you take a backward step, right, you actually build the possibility of length through the hip flexors first as the appropriate sensory information for the swing to allow the forward walk. And so I think we have to clinically ask the question, when you're looking at retraining locomotion, which way do you step first? And this is a great diagram, partly because it's got it's got a question mark in the middle, which really is the essence of, you know, so much. What I meant to say in the beginning as well is, you know, so much of what we're learning, we really are on a path of learning, and so, you know, there are lots of unknowns, and also, you know, I'm a physiotherapist, not a neurophysiologist, so, you know, my days are spent treating patients, not reading articles, so, you know, there's lots of unknowns in how the central nervous system works as well. We certainly haven't got it all sorted. But there's a lot of work coming out of Victoria. There's published a huge number of articles over the last 5-6 years looking at the question of whether there's central pattern generators for reach and grasp for the upper limb. Or I should say for reach for the upper limb. And they think that there is, and they think that there's a connection between upper limbs and lower limbs. And I like here, I think what's important is the strength of the arrows. So what they're suggesting is that there's a strong connection between CPGs between the lower limbs, right? That there's a very weak one between the upper limbs. There's a relatively strong one in the diagonal and a weaker one in terms of the same side. But what's the thing that pulls it all together? They've got ideas, but they don't know. So some of the questions in terms of whether that you can take this information to ask in terms of your patient. So does your patient demonstrate preserved CPG activity? Anyone post orthopedic injuries got to have central pattern generators sitting in their spinal cord waiting to be accessed. Anyone post-stroke has got intact central pattern generators, right? Anyone post-incomplete spinal cord, it's unknown. So one of the classic sort of scenarios in treating neuro patients is that the incomplete spinal cord patient believes they can walk, right? They demand of you to make them walk, to get them back up on their feet, because their cortex is screaming at them, I'm fine, walk, I can walk, I can walk. Where they've broken down is possibly in terms of the central pattern generated structures within, or central pattern generators in the spinal cord. The person post-stroke, right, doesn't know that they can walk, right? Their cortex is where they've had the impact, and they don't know that they've got intact central pattern generators that, if only we could access, could produce patterned rhythmical activity. Now, patterned rhythmical activity isn't the only thing that makes you walk, it's a part of it. And as I've said, oh, sorry, I keep pushing this wrong one, don't I? As I've said, I'm not showing learning here, that given that the CPG is for a limb, it's the basis of recognizing that stance influences swing of the same leg, and the interlimb coordination is the basis for recognizing stance of one influences swing of the other. Or stance of one may be improved by the diagonal and getting an appropriate alignment and postural stability through the contralateral shoulder girdle and upper limb. Okay, so maintain stability. I'm also going here to actually skip to this third slide, right? Because this third slide is really pushing all the words of the previous two into a sentence. So postural control is the essence of our ability as humans to be up against gravity, right? So to walk, not only do we have to have this rhythmical pattern activity, we have to be up against gravity. It's a coordinated, sequenced organisation of both stable and mobile components of the entire kinetic chain, the entire body, in order to both maintain a posture, achieve the posture, and restore balance for performance of the task. So postural control, again, probably the most, if you want one article to read that really nicely pulls together a lot of information about postural control, it would be the one HORAK, H-O-R-A-K. I think it's 2006, and again, it's a very short summary, but it's a very well-written, clearly explained, clinically relevant article. And it looks at postural control in respect of postural orientation and discusses postural orientation. So how are the body parts organised in respect of each other, as well as postural stability. So how do we maintain the centre of mass within our base of support? And depending on a particular task, we may be more driven towards postural orientation or postural stability. So the athlete, trying to catch the ball may lose their stability in order to orientate towards the goal of catch the ball. Right? Let's think there's one other thing I was going to, skipping forward. The other thing I want to say about postural control, yes, is so often I think when people talk to postural control, what you come away with is this idea that we need to be stable. Right? And what I want to say is movement, locomotion, is about the constant losing and regaining of stability. So you actually have to transition your centre of mass beyond your base of support, outside your base of support, to demand of the movement to take up a new base, to take the step. Right? And I think so often with our patients, they actually have lost the ability to control the displacement of the centre of mass beyond their base of support and control the step, right? And they become too stuck. Right? They present with patterns of fixation, patterns of co-contraction. Right? So postural control is about how to remain stable, but it needs you to be able to take your centre of mass outside of your base of support. There are a number of postural control strategies, both expected or both feed-forward control, APAs, and feedback control, reactive. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time deepening this side of postural control strategies. How well known is the term anticipatory postural adjustment? Sort of. So APAs are, I think, really important for us to understand whether you're working to improve locomotion or any aspect of movement. APAs are the essence that we are wired to counter, or to, maybe the counter is not the right word, to predict the perturbation of the swinging leg or the reaching limb, and to react, or not react, I don't like that word, to counter the perturbation before it occurs. So when I take a step, right, if I'm taking a step forward and I'm going to take my mass forward, right, because I know I'm stepping forward, prior to stepping, I'm going to change the background postural activity of the musculature within my trunk, within my shoulder girdles, around my hip and pelvis, right down in through my legs, so that moving my mass forward doesn't mean I fall. Right? So we're wired that prior to step, prior to reach, we produce an anticipatory postural adjustment. So anticipatory, it precedes the movement. And it provides the appropriate background postural stabilizing effect so that the step